Smell that? No, I'm not talking about your neighbor's coffee breath. I'm talking about the air. What do you smell? Maybe a little bit of perfume, maybe a little bit of body odor. But on the whole, you smell nothing. And to our brains, nothing means safe. But today we're going to challenge our perception of safety using 4 unlikely guides: a fire truck, radioactive waste, a tree frog, and a giant hole in the ground. Because although they sound completely unrelated, they tell us how we stay alive through airway, breathing, and circulation, the ABCs. And as we'll see today, the ABCs aren't just medical, they're planetary. So let's start for A for airway. When I was a firefighter paramedic, my training captain used to yell, "Firefighting is legs and lungs," usually on what he called a 3-mile sprint, warm-up. And after one particularly aggressive jog, he asked us, "What is firefighting?" "Legs and lungs, sir." "So I better not catch any of you standing next to the fire truck's exhaust pipe. Diesel exhaust is harmful. I've seen too many firefighters die of cancer. Don't be an idiot." I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. Cancer now causes 66% of firefighter line-of-duty deaths, with cancer rates 14% higher than the national average. Diesel exhaust is a Group 1 carcinogen in the same category as asbestos. And here's the problem. Diesel exhaust doesn't feel threatening. And humans, we're really good at identifying visible threats, like burning buildings, reckless drivers, and even glowing green goo. But imperceptible threats, we ignore them. Psychologists call this present bias. If danger isn't loud, painful, or immediate, we ignore it until it isn't ignorable. However, there is one imperceptible threat we never ignore: radiation. You can't see it, smell it, or touch it. If I showed you this leaking barrel with a radioactive symbol on it, your brain would scream, "Run!" And that's because of decades of misrepresentation in movies, books, and even cartoons. But the real high-level radioactive waste is stored like this. No glow, no ooze, no smell. Nuclear kind of has a branding problem. You might believe nuclear energy is incredibly dangerous, but in fact, it is one of the safest forms of energy generation across the entire industry. And I know this because I went back to school for nuclear engineering. Ooh. And one of the first things I learned was this: unlike firefighters, workers in nuclear power plants have cancer rates similar to the general population. That's because when a threat is imperceptible to nuclear, they don't gamble. They monitor, track, shield, and contain. And not only do they contain, but if you got all of your electricity from nuclear power over your entire life, the contents would fit inside a soda can. Not only is it contained, it's also recyclable. All of the US nuclear fuel produced can fit inside a football stadium, stacked roughly 30 feet high over the past 50 years. Let's compare that to coal waste. If coal was stacked the same way, it would reach roughly 66 miles high. Although this picture is not to scale, the height is literally out of the atmosphere. Isn't it strange that humans who can only hold their breath for 90 seconds are comfortable using the atmosphere as a garbage dump? Have you driven by a garbage dump? That smell is perceptible. So, this all got me thinking. If we can manage high-level radioactive waste safely and responsibly, why don't we do the same for all forms of waste? Why do we let our waste damage our planetary ABCs? Amazing air, blue oceans and rivers, and crust and soil of the earth. So the fire truck helped us uncover some of the threats to our airway, but now we're going to zoom in on blue oceans and rivers. And to do that, we're going to use my HOA. I know, right? When I first moved in to my home, the yard was chaotic. The HOA wanted me to spray herbicides. But underneath the weeds was a thriving ecosystem, birds, bees, and even tree frogs. I lived uphill from a creek, and spraying herbicides wouldn't just harm my tree frogs, they would harm every tree frog downstream. So picture this. You're a tree frog mother. Congratulations. You've dodged water and predators and found where to lay your eggs. But you don't see the slight chemical sheen on the surface. Your tadpoles hatch and toxins quietly slip into their bloodstream. Not fast enough to notice, but slow enough to be devastating. Because today, the most dangerous environmental threats aren't predators, they're pollutants. And when we're determining what a safe level of pollutant is, safe for the average isn't safe for the outlier. A hydrogeologist, someone who studies what water does underground, on my nuclear podcast once told me that our original safety thresholds for pollutants were based on a 154-pound adult man. Not women, not children, and definitely not 5-gram tree frogs with semi-permeable skin. We are designing safe environment for the strongest of bodies, and even the firefighters can't keep up. The smallest bodies tell us the most about planetary health, and somewhat like a canary in a coal mine, we'll see our last letter of the environment, C, crust and soil of the earth. In Mooresville, North Carolina, a daycare playground was found to be containing coal ash, the waste burned when coal is left over. Tests in this daycare found arsenic and heavy metals at dozens of times higher than state safety goals. It's a bit of a problem. What's more than that, coal ash is typically stored in this, giant holes in the ground, called pits. If these pits are unlined and uncontained, toxins can leach into the groundwater, plants absorb them, crops accumulate them, pollutants move up the food chain and into our bodies. If coal ash isn't safe, why do we use it? It's because the harms are imperceptible. And this matters now more than ever because every energy decision is a waste decision. And our energy demand, it's exploding. Estimates show that the United States is going to need 78% more energy by 2050. To do this, we need to double our annual energy growth year over year for the next 20 years. All of this to power AI, data centers, and electrified vehicles. But doubling power cannot mean doubling pollution. And nuclear offers something rare, massive power with minimal waste. This is in California. It's California's last nuclear power plant, Diablo Canyon. It powers up to 20% of the state's clean energy for up to 3 million people. All of this with no air pollution, keeping our oceans and rivers blue, and healthy green soil, cows not included. So, all of this got me thinking, where do we begin? Do you know where your energy comes from? What does it emit into the air you breathe? If you don't, you should probably scan this QR code. It's the EPA's Power Profiler. It shows you what is being emitted in your region. And what I'd like for you guys to do is go ahead and scan the code. Because what it'll show you is what different types of energy emissions create the most and the least amount for the air that you breathe. This isn't about being pro-nuclear, it's about being pro-airway, pro-breathing, and pro-circulation for people, the community, and the future. So I would like to end where we began. Take a deep breath in. You're standing by the ocean. The year is 2126. The clean air you breathe has crossed blue oceans, green borders, and generations of energy decisions. Because in 2026, you decided to protect that future. Thank you.